Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving weekend. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Factory podcast presented by the fine folks of Miller Lite, home of the great tasting, less filling, 96 calories, 3.2 carbs. You want to kick back and have a few cold ones during this holiday season and not look up and gain 15 or 20 pounds? Well, this is probably the beer for you. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Mintz, joined by our other host, Steven Cheah. Mr. Cheah, got a lot to get into today. I hope you and your family had a happy Thanksgiving.
It was a very nice break. A lot to get into. You know, you had the Egg Bowl stream with Brandon Walker and co. The Bucs had a big win. First, we're going to get into it. Fantasy performance also all over the board yesterday. First, we're going to thank our presenting sponsor, Miller Lite, the absolute best. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. But this holiday season, Miller Lite's got some great gift ideas. Go to shop.millerlite.com for great gift ideas for beer lovers or any of your family and friends. This holiday season, they got perfect stuff there that's really going to make your friend, family member in your life happy. So go to Miller Lite, again, shop.millerlite.com. But Miller Lite overall, absolute best beer. The reigning champion of light beers. I mean, you can get Miller Lite anywhere. You can get it at a beer store, you can get it at a grocery store, you can get it at a bar.
I mean, you can even get it delivered these days.
You can get it delivered. If you want to get it delivered, go to millerlite.com/fantasy to find delivery options near you. But again, you can pick up Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. It is Miller time. It was not Miller time a lot in the Browns versus Ravens game last night. That was a tough watch, especially if you're pulling for Lamar like we were.
Yeah, there's some. So you mentioned the quarter. There was a lot of stuff all over the map yesterday.
All of it.
And the running quarterbacks had very bad passing days yesterday. Lamar, yes. Jalen Hurts, and Cam Newton all had just really, really rough games and hurt a lot of fantasy owners. And look, this is the rubber meeting the road fantasy time. I mean, we got 2 weeks left in the regular. You know, this year with the extra NFL week season, most fantasy seasons are 14 weeks now instead of 13 weeks. But I mean, everybody's fighting for playoffs, and I feel like a lot of Lamar Jackson owners the last 2 weeks have paid.
Yeah, I mean, last week with a surprising scratch, like the morning of the game, really, we heard about the illness, and then last night.
Well, the Thursday night in Miami was last week. That was 2 weeks ago was a scratch. So.
No, last week was a scratch. Miami was 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Well, either way. So last 3 weeks, he's hurt people.
Yeah, big time. It's been tough, and 4 interceptions last night certainly did not help. But yeah, fantasy performances all over the map. Wide receiver 4 this week, Kendrick Bourne. Wide receiver 5, T. Higgins. I mean, who's seeing those performances coming? Some great variations. You had some nice calls yesterday in Dear Mr. Fantasy with Elijah Mitchell as a strong start. Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
Incredible game.
Fournette, 4 touchdowns yesterday. And man, that just shows I'm like conceding defeat here on this Bucs thing, but the versatility of Tampa. When you have so many ways to beat you, I mean, they're playing. Gronk has been out. He's looking good again. He had a good game yesterday. Yep. Playing with that Antonio Brown. You have Mike Evans. You have Godwin. And then you have Fournette playing, I think, the best football of his career at this point. And, you know, that touchdown where, you know, the 4th touchdown to win that game, a thrilling win yesterday in Indy. I had Indy +3, and it is what it is.
It was tough for the Indy +3 Bears because technically the right move is to slide and go down at the 2-yard line or whatever. But he went in for that 4th touchdown. Fantasy owners everywhere appreciate that.
Dave Portnoy did not. Dave had the Colts really big.
Yes, that was tough. Big Cat had the Bucs really big. I mean, it was kind of all over the board yesterday. Shout out to Hank. Hank yesterday had the Colts big, and then when the Bucs were down 14, cashed out early with up on the positive side, and then bet it on the Bucs when they were down, when they were down by 10. When it was 24-10, 24-14.
Do you know? Yeah, Hank's been impressive with the Hungry Dogs. I like the way he looks at the NFL. But yeah, big win, just huge win for the Bucs though, because I believe the Colts, even though their record isn't great,
Colts are a good team.
I believe they're one of the best teams in the AFC.
Yeah.
I'm a believer. And the Bucs have been catching a lot of flack for, have been so dominant at home, but kind of have been going through the motions on the road. That ought to, being down 2 touchdowns in Indy, coming back and winning. I mean, I think that answers a lot of questions.
And they held RB1, fantasy RB1, Jonathan Taylor to a fairly mediocre, I don't want to call him mediocre day. He was, right around 100 yards, but his under hit as far as under total yards, which I believe was 106.5. I think he had like 83 yards rushing or something like that. Most of them actually on the final drive. They held him in check for the most part all game long. But let's talk about your Thanksgiving weekend, because on Thanksgiving night, you were doing a live stream from Hoboken with Brandon Walker for the Egg Bowl.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Well, so, okay. It's interesting for me because I've been jokingly saying the stranger in a strange land lately, but it's very odd not being around family and friends for Thanksgiving.
Sure.
Being 1,800 miles away. But, what was a little weird during the day felt like 5 holidays Thanksgiving night. Because Brandon and I, him, the huge Mississippi State fan, me being brought in as the Ole Miss fan to battle. There's nothing I enjoy more than just watching Ole Miss kick, not just beat Mississippi State, but just really kick the crap out of them on their home field. I mean, on the State side, these fans live to hate Ole Miss. I'm at a point, I feel like State likes watching Ole Miss lose more than they care about winning. The hatred is that much on that side. And on that stream, I pulled the move so right before the half, State dropped it was really windy and rainy, and that affected the game. It was a cold night start. State dropped 3 passes in a row that all could have been touchdowns and missed a 29-yard field goal before the half. And Brandon brought like 13 cowbells to the game. And I grabbed one of his cowbells and started shaking it. We'll throw this in this pod.
Which is a Mississippi State
staple, the cowbell thing. And I started shaking it. And I mean, Brandon literally just lost his mind. Brandon lost his mind so much on this stream that Brandon Walker, I've never seen a public apology out of Brandon Walker. I've been here every year. Y'all been, he's been here a few years.
Yeah.
Brandon got so mad on this stream that he sent me a personal apology text on Saturday, and then he did a public one Sunday to save face. I told him back, I said, your apology is unnecessary. The Egg Bowl's been bringing toxic behavior out of Mississippi State fans for as long as time. I didn't, literally, it went in one ear and out the other, but he... a few of the terms that were used, cross-eyed fat F. I wish Dave Portnoy had hired an Ole Miss guy that had talent, so I don't have to keep dragging you around. Let's see some other ones. He used the R word, which is unacceptable in this day and age. But he literally was just losing it. I was just laughing the entire time. There ain't no sugar water running through these veins.
Right.
This is Barstool Sports. If you can't take public heat, you are working in the wrong dang profession. And, I just enjoyed seeing his pain, to be flat out honest. And, man, it was a wild stream, though. We did some fun numbers, but it's really bad if Brandon Walker has to publicly apologize. He
lost his composure for sure. He also had a lot of money riding on it.
Oh, yeah. He lost a huge bet. He had to retire. He had a responsible retirement day on Friday. We didn't see him all weekend. He didn't even come Saturday to the streams.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how bad. But you know what? I hope he's enjoying that pain this Monday morning because Ole Miss is on to hopefully the Sugar Bowl or New Year's Six Bowl, and we're on to better things. Mississippi State, can enjoy their 7-5 record and their crappy bowl game, and they can keep living in hate and see how that attitude takes them in life.
Yeah.
But that made Thanksgiving pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun seeing you live it up on the stream. It's always fun seeing the highs of the highs with you obviously with Ole Miss winning, and then the absolute lows and the lows just right next to you.
Oh, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic too. That the Ole Miss State stuff. There's nothing that makes the State fans madder than taking the high road on them because they just live the hate with that hatred just pulsating through their veins. And Walker just losing it on me and me just laughing in his face, but not going above it. That just makes him even madder.
Yeah.
So yeah, great day for Ole Miss. 10 wins. I feel like we'll be talking about Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral in this show next year. Looking like a mid-first round pick. And yeah, so that part of Thanksgiving was good. Let me tell you what was not good on Thanksgiving night. The NFL game that went on at the same time and the XFL offense of my New Orleans Saints.
Terrible.
It's at a point where, look, I've been a diehard fan since I was 5 years old. When I don't know 5 or 6 starters out there on the offense, it's bad. And guys, it's just, I don't even know who's out there at this point.
Teron Armstead, terrible. He's an elite left tackle.
Oh yeah, he's hurt. He's playing hurt, but he got destroyed.
He was awful. The whole line, they went for it on 4th and 1, right around the 45-yard line. Nobody knew the snap count. The center hiked the ball, and then it was a 5-yard loss. Tony Jones also just crippling all of my parlays on Thursday with a tough performance.
Tough night for the Overs Club, too.
11 carries for 11 yards in the fourth quarter. What are you doing? They gave him the ball a couple times in the final drive. He ended up with 27 yards. But, just a horrendous performance out of him. The Saints offense, the Saints offensive line, Trevor Siemian with the NBC graphic, if anyone saw that, when they introduced him and he comes on the field, him just like looking at the camera awkwardly and taking a couple gulps. Tough optics. That's the guy you're trotting out there. Terrible.
Times are bad. And I kind of said this. I'm glad I was in the Superdome on Halloween Sunday because I got to see the peak of the season for sure. It's all downhill. Quick other thing on Thanksgiving, the Raiders-Cowboys game, just want to comment on the Raiders' offensive explosion.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs looking very good. Darren Waller got hurt early.
Hunter Renfrow, big game.
Yep. Across the board, Deshaun Jackson becoming potentially. I mean, he's
trying to
kind
get
of always
the Henry Ruggs dot roll.
Yep. But on the other side of the ball, what are we going to make about Zeke Elliott? So he, like, especially when he's like kind of splitting time with Tony Pollard looks way better.
And Zeke's banged up too.
Shout out to Zeke for hitting his receiving over and overtime, but he just looked bad. And there's talks about them maybe resting him a little bit. What do you do as a fantasy manager if you have Zeke Elliott? Is he startable right now?
You just have to monitor this rest situation. But Dallas, all of a sudden, I mean, they still are 2 games up in that division at 7-4.
Yep.
And then the Eagles getting beat yesterday kind of did them a favor because the Eagles were the one team that were kind of closing on them, and now they're 5-7. So I think you got to be really, really careful. I mean, I think, if you don't have better options, Zeke's a number 2 RB right now, but I don't think any more than that, and I think you have to proceed very cautiously. So, report from Ed Werder from Friday is that the Cowboys are considering giving Ezekiel Elliott time off to heal. It's believed they're considering injured reserves, which would mean he would miss a minimum of 3 games. Well, if this is the case, Tony Pollard becomes an RB1 in fantasy. Immediately. And that's kind of the story of today's Fantasy Football Factory is the running back injuries and the new potential RB1s. And, start with Zeke, Dalvin Cook, major shoulder injury yesterday. Alexander Madison's owned by a lot of people already, but I mean, he's number 1 waiver ad. Did you see the Dave screenshot? So I was at the house. We were both at the house in Hoboken watching the injury in real time. Rico was there earlier, and I like Rico. I'm a rider. Big fan of Rico. He was one of the first people I met when I joined Barstool. But he tweeted out, I guess in Dave's Twitter feed, it was a tweet from Rico that was like 50 seconds ago. That was like, so is Dalvin Cook done for the day? And then the tweet right below was me breaking down everything that happened, which is like the Vikings are on a knee. The entire other team is on a knee. They're bringing out the cart. He's crying on the cart. So Dave just said like completely classless joke from some things. Yeah. Some things, but you just hate it. Fantasy football, it's so interesting and tough to deal with because when you have those top picks, like let's look at the top 3 picks this year are McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and Henry. Yes. And the running back, and we talked about this at length while you do the 0 RB thing, because I mean, not every year all the top guys go out, but the volatility of getting through a season as an NFL running back. I mean, even Derrick Henry succumbed to it this year. We thought he was indestructible like the Chevrolet Silverados. And and it's really tough. And McCaffrey yesterday, I mean, he killed your parlays. He killed everybody. Yeah, it was shocking how much of that is attributed to him and how much is attributed to Cam Newton, who was horrendous. I think he was like 5 for 21 with a couple picks. I heard him getting mentioned as the worst completion percentage since Joey Harrington has played in a game, which is bad. That is very, very bad. You never want to be mentioned with Joey Harrington statistically in a sentence, but yeah, it's tough because McCaffrey, while the unanimous number 1 overall pick, like, especially in half point or full point PPR, yeah. But every game he's going to the blue medical tent, and half the time he's coming back, but half the time he's not. Like yesterday, he came back for a play, and then immediately he's gone, and that's it. He's done for the day. So he's dealing with a hamstring issue, which those can flare up, and that's very troublesome. He hasn't had really injury concerns in his past, so. He got hurt last year, though. Yes, he got hurt last year, but that was like one injury that lingered throughout the whole year, and that was kind of the end of it. But outside of that, he hasn't been a guy who's like continually nicked up. He is more sleight of frame than most running backs. But I mean, my theory on it is this. The tread on his tires in it for his frame, because Stanford ran him into the freaking ground. Yep. I mean, if you remember his college career. Oh, yeah. I mean, he was getting the ball like 40 times a game. Yeah. And I think that he may be starting to break down a little early because of what happened in college. And because by the time he got to the NFL, the amount of, I'm telling you, Stanford, the entire offense was him.
Here's an interesting hypothetical, or not a hypothetical, but like a look ahead. 2022 fantasy drafts come around. Christian McCaffrey, let's say he's out or limited the rest of the year. Where do you draft him? Can you spend a first round pick on Christian McCaffrey next year?
I think the upside's too high, like mid to late, like 8th or 10th. Because it's just the thing is if you're in a PPR league, it's just too out of control. If he can literally just one man gang 40 or 50 points,
right?
Because nobody else can have the 140 yards rushing and 10 catches for 115 yards and 2 or 3 touchdown combo like he can. And the upside's just too tremendous. But as far as being a top 3 pick, I don't think he's in there with Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry and
Najee Harris.
Yeah, No, I don't think he's at that point. And then also the Cam Newton thing, while we're on the Carolina thing, with him melting down, we talked about how you could start him. I think if McCaffrey's out, you can't start him. I know that's a weird thing, but Carolina's offense when McCaffrey's out sucks.
Sam Darnold was a good fantasy starter when McCaffrey was in.
Exactly. And that happened last year too with Teddy.
Yep.
So I think it's literally tied into McCaffrey so important that he affects the Carolina quarterback that much.
I mean, what do? They go with PJ Walker?
I think they got to stay with Cam. And
they paid him a lot of money.
I think you got to stay with Cam and you got to pound the ball and not get Cam into the drop back, mode. And then the problem is, though, game script wise, when they get behind, they're just done.
So what do we do with the backup role? If you're a Christian McCaffrey manager, like Chuba Hubbard, I assume that you have as a handcuff. But if not, is he someone you're starting, or even Amir Abdullah?
It's not good because Hubbard didn't really. He had plenty of chances to seize that job, and he was just a guy. Yeah, just a jag.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you got to go Hubbard as your number 2 running back. If that's all you can do. I mean, it's just there. Some people in the NFL aren't replaceable. I know running backs always looked at as like, oh, they're replaceable, blah blah blah. But when Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey goes down, you can't. I mean, there's no getting around what it's going to do in an NFL offense. And you see it in both places. I want to ask you, while we're on the subject too, or a different subject, where we are in the Mac Jones thing this week.
So I'm getting tagged left and right.
Yes. I mean,
PFFs.
He had a pretty good he almost had 100. He had 109 yards passing at halftime yesterday.
He was a QB5 overall in fantasy, 21.5 points in standard scoring leagues. Great performance. He's playing very well. I never said he wasn't. I did a breakdown on him October 7th, I believe. That talked about how well he was playing. He is playing the best football of any rookie quarterback right now. That's not even debatable. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is not playing the best. Justin Fields has been hurt. Trey Lance not playing. Zach Wilson's been awful. So he's a million miles above everyone else right now. But you don't draft quarterbacks for year one.
Well, unless you're the Patriots. The Patriots did, but they learned it because he was 23 years old. He's a guy that was at Alabama 5 years. He sat behind Jalen. He sat behind Tua. Big difference between coming out after your junior year. Zach Wilson was a redshirt sophomore. Sure. I mean, the Patriots, I don't know that they knew they were going to be this good this year, but they thought they probably thought we could get to 9-8 or 10-7 with them and be a wild card.
Sure. So
probably the logic. I would think.
That's a fair counter. What I would say is that you can't compare him to the rest of the field because nobody else did that. So, yes, 100%. Mac Jones is playing the best football of any rookie quarterback right now. He's playing very good football. Not denying that. I'm still saying if we did a redraft, he's not going to be my first pick. Just because. One
thing I want to bring up, though, the Niners, there was a lot of people talking about Mac Jones going there. Yes. And you can't judge Trey Lance right now. It's just impossible. I mean, He's sitting out for a year. He came from an FCS school and he played like one game the year before. So you can't judge it. But, man, he looks a lot better than Jimmy Garoppolo. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, people forget Jimmy Garoppolo looked really good when he was on the Patriots too. It's not crazy to say he is playing the best right now, but he's also in the best situation of any rookie quarterback. Is that fair?
I think that's fair, but the thing is, it's impressive to be playing this well with their weapons. I mean, they don't have, you've got a lot of just another guy. Mm-hmm. I know in Kendrick Bourne, you mentioned have the big fantasy performance. I mean, they got Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Henry, and Jonnu Smith's a good tight end combo.
Yep.
Damian Harrison Stevenson, nobody that's like elite at all. And to be doing that well is impressive.
They're not asking him to win games. They are asking him to not turn the ball over, to make throws that he's comfortable making, and the defense is playing lights out. I mean, we look at overall season defenses in fantasy, they're number one by a pretty healthy margin, 135 points on the season. Buffalo number 2 at 111. So the Patriots defense, again, I mean, they've got 2 elite playmakers in Mr. INT, JC Jackson, and a guy who I have been banging the drum for to be, I actually placed a bet on him to win Defensive Player of the Year this week, and it's Matt Judon, who's been incredible.
No, I agree. It's a team effort for sure, and it's a cultural thing, but it still is very, very, very impressive.
They've got a big-time matchup in Buffalo this coming Monday night, which should be a very
I want to see the atmosphere for that one.
Yes.
There's rumors some of our people could be going up for that too.
Yep, I think they are. So it'll definitely be a fun atmosphere. Another question I have for you. A guy who we've been pumping up, certainly. I think we both had him on as our number 2 receiver for the second half of the season, Jamar Chase.
Yes.
Taking a little bit of a nosedive, and it's not crazy. He's still having an incredible rookie season. But a guy who's ascending right now, another rookie in his class that was kind of a top 10 pick, Jalen Waddle, with the Waddle touchdown dance,
which is awesome.
How do you feel about these two guys, and who would you rather have in your fantasy roster?
Frank the Tank needs to copy the Waddle touchdown.
That's true.
I just thought of it as a Miami fan. We need a Frank video doing the Waddle.
That is actually a great idea. Who would you rather have on your fantasy team right now for the remainder of the year? Jalen Waddle or Jamar Chase?
I can't believe we're having this as a discussion, and I'm seriously thinking about it, but I am concerned about, I think Chase may have hit a wall.
Rookie wall.
Well, no, he didn't, but he didn't play last year. He opted out. And so I think there's a chance he may be. And then also teams are catering their defenses around him, and the Bengals are running the ball. And then you saw T. Higgins have a big game. I'm still going to say Jamar Chase. I just can't. I know Tua's playing better, though, but I still.
Waddle didn't play much football last year either, to be fair.
Yeah,
he got hurt. The thing is, though, Waddle's target share is better right now than Chase's. Like, if for the Bengals, I mean, they throw to Higgins. They're really using. They're trying to. The thing with the Bengals,
they have a lot of weapons.
No, and the thing with the Bengals too, I got to give them credit. Last year, they left Burrow out to dry. They had a bad O-line. They were just throwing all the time. He ended up getting hurt. This year, they've made a huge commitment to stay balanced. They actually have a pretty dang good defense. They went out in free agency and signed Trey Hendrickson from New Orleans. Eli Apple. They've got Mike Hilton from the Steelers at the pick 6 against his old team yesterday. They got some really solid veterans in there that have turned into a pretty good unit. And so they're kind of, Burrow's not throwing it 40 times a game like we kind of thought he might, being on a bad team, because they're better than that. Yep. And Miami, especially Waddle's just getting heaps of targets. I mean, they throw to him and Gesicki pretty much.
Yeah. Just when you look at, Jamar Chase had that monster game against the Ravens that everyone remembers. It's the big upset. They put a ton of money on it. We had a great stream for it, where he had 10 targets, 8 catches, 201 yards, and a touchdown. Since then, four games. One was a bye. 9 targets, 3 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown. Okay. Didn't kind of make the most of his targets. Still caught a touchdown. That's good. Next week, 13 targets, 6 catches, 49 yards. They have a bye. Next week, 6 targets, 3 catches, 32 yards, scores a touchdown. So
yeah, but that's kind of window dressing it a little,
Right. Yesterday, 3 targets, 3 catches, 39 yards. So he hasn't eclipsed 50 yards since the Ravens game.
The one thing on yesterday, they were playing with a massive lead and Burrow only threw 24 passes. I mean, granted, that's not an excuse, but the game flow, I mean, it was just such a slaughter. They pounded the ball. And your guy, Joe Mixon, continuing to have a big year. I don't think you could totally panic on Chase. You still got to obviously start him every week and just hope he comes out of it. But I mean, it is a little concerning.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Waddle's target share is just massive. I mean, his last 5 weeks, 12, 10, 6, 9, 10 targets. I mean, that's huge. He doesn't get in the end zone as much as not that much of a threat. But I mean, you're right. He's just getting the target share. I guess when you consider the rest of the season, you have to consider Jalen Waddle has a bye week 14. But as far as the playoffs moving forward,
Miami's hot too. There's always these teams in the NFL. It's kind of fascinating that start really bad, that just become covering and machines down the stretch. Because that's the difference between NFL and college football. These guys are professionals. Mm-hmm. They're trying to stay in the damn league. And so even if you're 2-8, it's still important that you play hard. In college football, you'll see teams give up. And Miami seems to be that team. I mean, they were 1-7 and now they're red hot. They're playing very, very well. Speaking of which, everybody going to New England at Buffalo, people are going to be eating all kinds of fun tailgating food in Buffalo. Check out Barstool Bites. We have joined forces with two leading-edge industry icons and have partnered to launch Barstool Bites, a delivery and pickup-only restaurant available in select cities nationwide. Barstool Bites will bring a specially crafted menu inspired and named after Barstool Sports' unique personalities. Thanks to acclaimed chef Eric Greenspan, you can look forward to an amazing assortment of dishes ranging from game day favorites, must-have munchies, and anything in between. All named after Barstool personalities, including Dana Beer's Buff Chick Dip, KFC's Skinny Fat Wing Collection, or Glenny Ball's Long Island Sliders. I also like the Smitty's Biggie Philly. Pretty solid. Ordering is now available right at your fingertips at www.barstoolbites.com and via the Barstool Bites proprietary app, available for download from the Apple Store or Google Play. So head to barstoolbites.com or download the Barstool Bites app and check delivery or pickup options near you to get $3 off orders of $15 or more with code Barstool exclusively on the Barstool Bites app or barstoolbites.com.
My favorite thing, I like Nate's chips, I think, are elite potato chips. Fran's Frickles, I think, are very good. Danny Beer's Buffalo Chicken Dip is very good, but White Sox Dave's chicken finger or chicken tender basket is very, very good chicken tenders.
Yeah, no, I've been impressed by the food. I think it's very good. And with that, in a transition to the next game and situation we're going to talk about, have you had the cheese curds?
I have not.
Cheese curds are good. And we're going to go to Green Bay, Wisconsin and break down this. Okay, the Rams still scored 28 points. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like you could see the loss of Robert Woods all over that offense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just his versatility, the fact that he helps the running game by faking the jet sweep action. I feel like it's hurting Cooper Kupp because you couldn't really, you couldn't target Kupp. Defenses couldn't say, hey, we're taking away Cooper Kupp because of Woods' versatility in their running game. And now Van Jefferson is stepping up. He's playing good. Had a very good game yesterday. Odell Beckham came back from the grave, and Odell came back from no touchdown hell and scored his first touchdown in over 400 days yesterday. So bully for him. Good to see. But Stafford looks, I don't know if he's hurt. I mean, people are saying he's hurt.
Fantasy-wise, he finished as QB4, but yes.
Yeah, but they were getting their ass kicked the whole game. It was a garbage time deal. I don't know. I'm just, them coming off a bye. They had the two bad losses before the bye. That was a bounce back spot. How the hell were they favored in that football game?
It was kind of a very fishy line. I mean, I
had two units on Green Bay. That was my biggest bet of the day.
Yeah.
Green Bay lost at Minnesota as a road favorite in a close game. That was an obvious bounce back spot. I just couldn't. I thought Green Bay, standard line, Green Bay's elite, the Rams are elite, Green Bay by 3 at home. That's just like what you do on those lines.
Yeah.
And then Rams by 1 or 2, I was just like, I mean, it looked ratty, but I was just like, man, I'm going down on this hill. And it was, Aaron Rodgers. What a performance.
What was this, the system that you were talking about yesterday?
Okay, there's a system I've been running. So when I was a 15-year-old little boy learning gambling, there was this this guy named Terry in Monroe, Louisiana, who I was friends with his son, and he took me under his wing, and he taught me when I was learning gambling lines how to look for sucker stuff. And one of the first things he taught me was anytime a team loses when they're a favorite on the road and they lose outright. So Green Bay was favored by 2.5 in Minnesota last week, and they're a home underdog the next week. You just pound it, just blind, because it's like, think about it. You lose the game, everybody thinks you're supposed to win, and everybody's down on you, and then it's a backs against the wall at home. We're back at home, practice week, where nobody believes in us, and the public is like taking the other side because they saw what happened last week.
Right.
So in theory, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And Auburn in college football was this week. It almost being bad. They lost at South Carolina last week as a favorite. Yeah. But it's a system thing that, I mean, I need to go. I'd love to go through the data, but I feel like I've been hitting it at least 65 or 70% for 20 years.
I
need to go. I need to trust the data and do some serious. But when I saw Green Bay as a home underdog off that loss, it's like, well, there's my biggest bet of the week.
Right. Yeah, I like that play. Theoretically, you're right. It does make sense
because it's just the backs against the wall, public's against you, all that stuff. But Rodgers, man, dear Mr. Fantasy, we made some good calls yesterday, but the Jalen Hurts versus Aaron Rodgers one, we owe somebody an apology on that one. Jalen Hurts, what'd you think of the Hurts performance yesterday?
Hurts, he levels out his play because he does so well rushing, but when their offense is so inept, like he had 3 picks yesterday.
He threw for like 100 yards.
Yeah, it's not where you need it to be, and he didn't get in the end zone, so everything was kind of lacking. So yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is tough because he was so devalued going into this year. Like if you look at the pass attempts that they typically do at a game, they're typically an under 30 attempt team. They did air it out a little bit more yesterday.
He has a lot of games like Burrow had yesterday. Where they have the lead.
Yep.
He goes 20 for 25 for 200 yards and they win.
Yeah.
And he's an unbelievable quarterback, but it's almost a lot of his stuff doesn't always translate to fantasy because of that.
Yeah.
The touchdown passes do that.
Yeah. I mean, he was great in fantasy last year as the league MVP last year, but yeah, how much of that stuff is sustainable on a week-to-week basis? He finished as QB2 this past week. Excellent performance. I think long-term, if I had to pick one of these guys for fantasy for the rest of this year, I would pick Jalen Hurts just because he does have that very safe base and he's not going to have that many games where it's a complete donut like yesterday.
At some point, I hope they change fantasy passing touchdowns to 6 points to just alleviate how much of a running cheat code it is. Because it's like so weird that these quarterbacks that aren't near as good in real life are so much better in fantasy because of the scoring system. Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole nother deal. But either way, huge performance by Rodgers. Are you worried about Kupp at all?
So what I've noticed just looking at the numbers is that his touchdowns are down. But overall, I mean, his target share is incredible. He has one game this year that's sub 10 targets and it had 9 targets. So I'm not crazy worried about Cooper Kupp. He did have a 2-point conversion yesterday, so it shows he
almost threw a touchdown pass too.
He did almost a touchdown pass. It was initially ruled a touchdown pass. Yeah. It was overturned, right? Yeah. So I'm not worried about Cooper Kupp. Overall, his wide receiver one standing is pretty safe. He's got 231.2 points and half-point PPR. The next closest is Deebo Samuel at 204.9. And that's a guy we really got to talk about for an emerging Niners team. I mean, he just set the record for
5 rushing first wide receiver to ever have 5 rushing touchdowns in the Super Bowl era. And you look at his game yesterday, talk about versatility. It's like he's like the running quarterback version of a receiver. He had 1 catch for 12 yards.
Yeah.
And he still had over 20 fantasy points because he had 6 carries for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Or he had 19, I guess. Yeah, he had over 20 if you're in half-point PPR. So, I mean, that's an incredible stat.
Yeah. Deebo Samuel has been awesome. I almost think that the running back injuries for San Francisco has benefited him and his fantasy managers because it's like, okay, Elijah Mitchell's hurt. Jeff Wilson Jr. is just coming off like the pup list. Like, all right, let's give Deebo a couple carries.
Let's manufacture offense any way we can.
And he's, obviously making the most of it. His run yesterday was like 55 yards, 60, like something around there. So he's just a playmaker. Get the ball in his hands however possible, and he's rewarding his fantasy managers. Like very clear wide receiver too. He's almost 15 points ahead of the next one, which is Tyreek Hill, which is incredible.
Yeah, no, and that just shows you fantasy football. I mean, Kupp and Deebo being 1-2. I mean, Deebo was like mid to late 20s before the draft, and then in Kupp, I had Kupp at 12 or 13 and caught some heat for it. I mean, most places had him like 20th.
Yeah.
I mean, we were huge on him going in. But
yep. And then Scoredarrelle Patterson, big game yesterday.
And when he's Scoredarrelle, when he gets in the end zone with the versatility, and he's just him and Kyle Pitts are all they got. I mean, they're NFL, their receiving core is it's Russell Gage and Zacchaeus. It's not good.
It is not good. 26.5 fantasy points yesterday, getting the end zone twice. Absolute must start. We got a couple questions about him on Dear Mr. Fantasy yesterday.
Everyone we said start.
You absolutely cannot bench Scoredarrelle Patterson in any format, even if he's just ESPN a running back. Right now for the season, he's overall running back 8. For the season on Yahoo, where he has position flexibility, he's wide receiver 6. He's above Jamar Chase. He's above Adam Thielen. He's above Stephon Diggs. He's above Mike Evans. He's just below Justin Jefferson. So, I mean,
for as much heat as I like to give the Falcons because I can't stand them, you got to give Arthur Smith credit for finding a way to use. Nobody's used him correctly his whole career.
He's on the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, he's bounced around. Nobody's used him. And how in God's name are they 5-6? I mean, have you seen them play? Yeah. They're almost 500. They're in the wild. They're tied for the wild card right now.
Yeah, the performance they had on, was it Thursday night?
No, back to back. The Dallas one before that, they were down 2 weeks going into this game. They were down 36-3 at the half and lost 26-0. And right now they're 5-6 in the wild card.
Yeah,
what is going on?
Trick or treat team. We'll see what happens with Calvin Ridley if he's able to come back before the season. That would certainly help their offense. All right, let's talk about a couple guys that potentially are worth an ad. Let's kind of explore these guys heading into waivers on Tuesday. Alexander Madison, we talked about. Absolutely, you got to pick him up if he's available. Jamal Williams. So DeAndre Swift with a shoulder injury out early on Thanksgiving Day.
And he's been banged up.
He has. They gave him the ball a lot when Jamal Williams was hurt. He had like 33 carries in the game against Pittsburgh, I think, which did go into overtime. But Jamal Williams had 15 carries, 65 yards, 5 targets, 5 catches, 18 yards. He's rostered in 39% of leagues. I think he's, even though DeAndre Swift is day-to-day, I think if you're a Swift manager for sure, you got to throw your wallet at Jamal Williams.
Oh, yeah, especially because how much he catches the ball, because Detroit throws it to their backs and tight ends because they don't have any receivers either.
Yep. Deshaun Jackson, are we making a waiver claim for him? He's owned in 4% of leagues, 4 targets, 3 catches, 102, and a touchdown.
Depends on how desperate you are at receiver. I think if you're in a league that's not half point or full point PPR, he's worth the flyer because he's a boomer bust guy.
Yep.
In a full point PPR, I'm probably laying off because it's just going to be so erratic. But the thing is with him, he can't ever stay healthy. But I mean, could he catch lightning for a few weeks? Sure.
I think he's a good bye week fill-in.
Yeah.
If you have a Jalen Waddle manager and he's going on a bye and you can potentially plug in Deshaun Jackson, I think that's a guy who it's like, okay, maybe we're not expecting too much, but he could provide, a very good game.
Do you think Nick Westbrook, I always forget his last,
Akini.
Yeah, Nick Westbrook-Akini. I mean, A.J. Brown IR for 3 weeks.
I mean, the Titans passing.
They are miserable. They are.
Ryan Tannehill didn't break 100 yards yesterday.
No, they are. I mean,
I would not start any Titans offensive player.
Derrick Henry and AJ Brown out. They're hoping Henry can come back, but it's bad.
Colts are a good team. They lost yesterday, but they're a good team.
It was unfortunate. No, the Colts.
The
the Titans have the tiebreaker because they beat them twice and they're up 2 games. But no, the Colts are much the better team right now.
Yes. Van Jefferson owned in 48% of leagues, 9 targets.
I think definite add.
3 catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown.
I think the people that are
Almost
looking,
had 2.
everybody's always upset. Like Shay, you always make this point about Odell Beckham. If his name wasn't Odell Beckham, he'd be rostered in 0% of leagues.
Yep.
Everybody that's thinking, hey, I want to own Odell with the Rams, just get Van Jefferson. Because he's stepping into the number 2 role. He's also a very good route runner.
Yep.
I think. He's very polished.
He better be. His dad's a receiver coach.
Yeah, Sean Jefferson, old Chargers.
Yep.
But just I think Van Jefferson's solid ad. If he's not, I mean, he's probably rostered on a lot of teams already, but I believe in him, and I think he's going to be good the rest of the way.
I think he's probably a low level wide receiver 3. Like I've played him. He's a tough guy because he doesn't catch it a lot. But I mean, 9 targets. That kind of speaks to it. What he can do. Randall Cobb. 5 targets, 4 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. Did lose a fumble. Rostered in 11% of leagues right now.
I feel like he's an awesome player, and it's great that he's back with Rodgers. And he had the good game yesterday, but I don't quite know if I could. I mean, bye week fill in, sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know that too much. But Robert Tonyan being out now, I mean, that's another.
Cobb got dinged up yesterday. If you look at his like game by game log, it's very hit or miss.
I also think Green Bay is going to be careful with him trying to have him healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be, a veteran like that, kind of like what we see the Bucs do too.
Boston Scott, 15 carries, 64 yards, and a touchdown. 2 catches for 8 yards as well. Did lose a fumble. Rostered in 19% of leagues.
I'm biased toward this guy because I covered him in college, and he's a Louisiana guy. I still just don't know what this Eagles running back thing. I know Miles Sanders is emerging. The thing with Scott, he would have value if Jalen Hurts was like a drop back passer because he would be a 0 RB stud. He'd be at a J.D. McKissick. He's awesome catching the ball in the backfield. He's like 5'6", 5'5". He's a little mighty guy that if you get the ball to him in space, he's dangerous. I just don't know with the way the Eagles offense is designed that, I think his value's all if they're losing in the game and he comes in. So,
one guy I'm going to recommend people to pick up, and I'm going to choose my words carefully here. I don't want to say I don't carry the water for the Bucs because I love the Bucs, but I don't overrate them. Like going into the season, I had both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both fairly low in the fantasy rankings. One guy to watch out for, and he was probably drafted in your league, but not really started, and that's Ronald Jones, unless you're out of office. And that's Ronald Jones. Owned in 19% of leagues. They're slowly starting to trust him again, and he is a game breaker. Yesterday, 7 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown. His second straight week with a touchdown. I think if you are a Leonard Fournette manager, you absolutely have to pick up Ronald Jones, just because if Lenny goes down, it's going to be the Rojo show. And that is something that you're going to need. And he could carry you in the playoffs and be a very startable RB2 if that is the case. So he's going to get sprinkled in. I would expect him to get somewhere between 5 to 10 carries. They also have a very soft schedule. I would expect him to get between 5 and 10 carries for the rest of the way, unless he does have a fumbling issue or misses.
One thing with Tampa, is there a chance when they clinch? Because the NFC South right now, I mean, let's call it, I'm licking my wounds publicly, but is there a chance Tampa goes with Jones more down the stretch and kind of lightens Fournette's workload pre-playoffs?
It absolutely could be. So their next 3 games, at Atlanta, home against Buffalo, home against New Orleans. If they win those 3 games, they will have clinched the division before Christmas. And then they still have 3 games to go. They're going to play the Panthers twice and at the New York Jets. So that it's certainly
I think if you were a Fournette owner, you must add Jones right now.
Yes, I would absolutely agree. One other guy I'm going to keep an eye out for, and I think he's a startable tight end, Cole Kmet. 11 targets, 8 catches, 65 yards. I know Jimmy Graham gets some of the red zone looks, but Cole Kmet is huge. And with Andy Dalton starting, or Justin Fields, honestly, I think he can survive either, because Justin Fields looks to him a lot and Andy Dalton throws it way more. So I think that either way, he is a TE1 level guy, owned in 24% of leagues. If you had a Darren Waller who went down with an injury, or you have another tight end that you're not really sure about, I think Cole Kmet is a top 10 fantasy tight end right now.
Look, it's all about target share.
Yep.
I mean, that's literally what it is. And with Allen Robinson being out too, that helps Kmet as well. I mean, somebody's got to catch the ball. Well, a lot of times when Fields is in there, nobody was. But no, it's just all about opportunity. He's got a lot of it.
It's also all about good karma, I would say.
Yes, good. He beat me to it. Credit Karma. It's going to fix all your. Do you have trouble dealing with personal finances? You aren't the only one. If so, Credit Karma is here to help you make those big calls with more confidence. Want to make a big change? If you're thinking about home renovations or paying down old credit card bills, Credit Karma can help you find a loan that works for you. Feeling frustrated after getting rejected for a credit card? It happens way too often. That's why Credit Karma is changing the way people find and apply for cards and loans. Whether you're refinancing credit card debt or paying for an upcoming expense, Credit Karma uses your credit data to show you fresh personal loan offers that are personalized to you. It's completely free and easy to sign up for a Credit Karma account with no effect on your credit score, making it simple to search for the right personal loan for you. Credit Karma will even show your approval odds so you can choose offers that you're more likely to get approved for and apply with more confidence. On Credit Karma, you can check out multiple loan offers side by side. Members who compare loan offers on Credit Karma save an average of 30% on interest rates. Wow. That's pretty damn significant. And once you have a loan, Credit Karma can help you track your progress as you pay off your debt and even let you know if you can refinance and save. Credit Karma, apply with more confidence today. Ready to apply? You just head to creditkarma.com/loan offers to see personalized offers with your approval odds right now. Go to creditkarma.com/loan offers to find the loan for you. That's creditkarma.com/loan offers.
Love it. All right. So waiver wires, we're taping this Monday morning. A
lot of them this week. I mean, and this is also the time where if you've got extra money laying around, you got to fire it because you can't, it's like you can't take it with you.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone necessarily worth completely throwing a roll at, unless
if Madison's available.
If Madison is available, for sure. Jamal Williams, if you're a DeAndre Swift owner. But all these other guys, they're not going to be expensive additions. Just Van Jefferson, I think if he's available, is worth a little bit of fab money. Cole Kmet, I think, is worth a little bit of fab money.
This Hunter Renfro's probably already owned too much, but if he is available, that's another one.
Yeah, I think Ronald Jones is worth a little bit of fab money as well. Have you got a chance to look at next week's schedule? You guys are hosting again,
Dallas
which
Thursday.
is actually very smart. They took 2 teams from Thanksgiving that already played on Thursday and then just give them another Thursday game, which in my mind makes sense.
Dallas and New Orleans.
Sean Payton Bowl.
Yeah, well, it's also Playboy Marty, our producer, and being where we used to live in Shreveport, Louisiana, it's the Super Bowl because Dak's from Shreveport. It's like a crossover. Okay. Anyway, but man, it's hard to get excited about Saints games right now. But Dallas
only favored by 5.5 at the moment.
No, they're struggling coming in. And you mentioned Zeke. Zeke's struggling. Dallas, the receiving core situation is suddenly, Cooper should be back. COVID. CeeDee Lamb's banged up now.
Yep.
I mean, that passing game didn't look the same.
I'm going to hammer the Tony Pollard over receiving.
The receiving, yeah, because the Saints.
Assuming they bench Zeke.
No, I think that's a fairly safe play. Also, could be looking for Dalton Schultz a lot in that game. But no, I've taken a look at some of the stuff next week. I think Jonathan Taylor should have a monster game against Houston on a bounce. I mean, that's a pretty obvious call. I'll tell you a game next week that just piques my interest in life. It's the Joe Burrow versus Herbert matchup.
Absolutely.
That's just a fact because there's been so much debate.
Two best young quarterbacks.
Yeah, there's been so much debate on, who was the better of the two. And I'm excited to see what happens in that one. The Bengals are favored by 2.5. To me, that's a very, very fascinating matchup. One of the better ones for next week. The Ravens are in Pittsburgh. Boy, the the Steelers are deader than fried chicken at this point, I think. What do you think?
Both teams playing some very ugly football right now. So I would say I'm looking forward to that game less so than in prior years.
Yeah. But New England Buffalo game of the week, Monday Night Football. That's going to be awesome.
We got the Jalen Ramsey Bowl, Jacksonville going to play the Rams. A game I think is going to be sneaky fun to watch. Washington at Las Vegas. Washington coming off a short week. In Vegas, that's always,
that one could be the sneaky. That one could get kind of wild.
Yes, that's what I'm alluding to.
Yeah.
This is from the guy who brought you that Minnesota San Francisco is going to be way over.
There you go. Minnesota's been playing some shootouts this year.
They almost exclusively play one-score games, so they're always going to be a fun watch. Denver at Kansas City is going to be the Sunday night game. Denver showing some intrigue. Denver showing a little bit of fight.
Good effort off the bye. I was on them yesterday, +3.
Yep. And then New England at Buffalo on Sunday. And a couple guys I like next week. A guy, if you need to plug somebody in, the name to know is T.Y. Hilton. He's not a reliable player.
He's the Texans killer.
He is the Texans killer. He came back against them earlier this year. I think he had something like 80 yards, having not played at all. T.Y. Hilton at Houston is always a good play. Mike Williams, I like to have a bounce back at Cincinnati. Kirk Cousins, I like at Detroit. Tua, who had a nice game yesterday. I like to have a good game against the Giants. Scoredarrelle next week going against the Bucs. He's going to do well against them.
I feel like Giants Miami could be a little ugly, low scoring. Just my read.
Taylor Heineke, I like at Las Vegas, and then Pookie Williams at Kansas City. I think they're going to try and play ball control, keep it out of Pat Mahomes' hands. But those are the early indications of guys that I like next week.
I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a bounce back game against the Jets. Jets usually have a good run D, and they don't this year. Like that's kind of, even when they've sucked the last few years, they're like D line and run D had been the one strength. It's no longer a strength. I feel like he could have a better game.
Yeah. But it's been fun. We're winding down the home stretch of the fantasy regular season. So hopefully, I don't like these really, really late buys with the Jalen Waddle, the Cardinals guys.
Pats have a buy off this Buffalo game in week 50 coming.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have a ton of fantasy relevant guys. Even Mac Jones, playing nice, but you're probably not starting him in a 1 QB league, maybe in a 2 QB league for sure. Not as many fantasy relevant guys, but Arizona was just on a bye. I mean, they needed to get healthy with Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins. But the late buys definitely mess with the fantasy manager's schedule.
Oh, yeah. And it's also interesting. I like having the extra week, though. The 14-week regular season instead of 13. I'm a fan. I think it's good for fantasy.
Yep.
But it's different. And I want to thank everyone, too. Shout out to our team. We've got a great crew.
Shout out Madeline getting full time.
Congratulations to Madeline, who runs our social, getting full time. I want to thank Playboy Martin Black for producing. Also thank our guy Richie. Richie's
crushing it.
Richie's crushing it. Appreciate people who supported our merch. We've been selling some of the Bayou Bengals shirts.
Yep, and the football shirts, the Sunday shirts. Yep. Everything's been great with Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So thank you guys for support.
Yes, and we are going to join us on Sunday for Dear Mr. Fantasy, 11:30 Eastern on the Barstool Sportsbook YouTube channel. And I believe, guys, it's time to clock out.